Hello and welcome to a new episode of For One of a Nail. We are joined today by, I should start off with, I'm your host, Robin, as always, and I'm joined today by my special guest,
Juliann.
Yay! Which you may remember from the last episode. And also, I'd like to apologize for the delay in getting this episode out. Life happens. Regardless, let's start off today with Jules. I will admit, just so we pull back the curtain a little bit on this will be the second time we've gone over some of this information. But it's been, conservatively 6 months?
Has it been 6 months? Oh my God.
It's definitely been at least 3 months, and I think it's closer to 6.
I don't think I was in my new apartment, so I think it had to have been before May.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's gotta be May.
It's gotta be May. Yeah, but I thank you for the disclaimer. But I also want to say I can never get enough about knowledge of musicals because
yes,
I'm obsessed, fully and completely.
And I have to say, as you should be. They are wonderful things, and they deserve to be obsessed over.
This is true. The spirit, the joy, the singing, the heart, yes. The humor.
The humor.
The humor.
Hey, I'm laughing here.
Hey, I'm over here. I'm laughing over here.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Absolutely horrible. So, do you want to know where we're headed? I mean, I know you already know, but do you want to know where we're headed, or do you want it to be a surprise?
I mean, we've already talked about musicals, so you might as well button it off with the truth.
Yes. So today we're going to be talking about the 2019 production of Cats, the film version. That was notoriously terrible. But before we get to that, there's somebody we have to talk about first, which is a certain Mr. John Harvey Kellogg.
Mr. Crunchy Oats, Mr. Flaky Boy, Mr. No Touch Yourself, Mr. No Fun Never.
No Fun Never. That was what they called him back in Michigan, was Mr. No Fun Never. And then he would always get angry and he'd say, it's Dr. No Fun Never. No. But no, he was born in 1852 in Tyrone, Michigan, as one of 17 children in a devoutly Christian family. But I repeat myself. I would love to meet a family that's like devoutly atheist, but still has like 30 kids.
They're like, our only belief is that more children should be on this earth.
Hey, mister, if I know two things in this world, it's that there is no God and that birth control is a product of the devil.
But one thing about this, like, what if your goal was to just like really play into evolution? You're like, I believe in evolution, and so I want to give as much variation. I guess not that much variation, but I want to give as much probability of success, and so I'm going to have 30 children, and that's their logic.
Hey, you never know. One of my kids might be born with superpowers or something, but I'm never going to know that unless I hit number 37.
Number 37.
Yeah. So John's father, John, was at times a Baptist, a Congregationalist, and finally a Seventh-day Adventist. So there's some nice little piggybacking off of the last episode with this one.
I always was curious, does the Seventh-day Adventist refer to the seventh day of creation when God rested, or what does it refer to?
It refers to the seventh day of the week, so they keep the Sabbath on Saturday.
But why?
Oh, because I don't know. I don't remember.
I'm diving into the wrong topic. It's okay. We can move on.
Yeah, no, it's fine. They grew out of the Millerite movement, which we talked about on our QAnon episode.
Yeah.
They believe that the return of Christ is imminent, and that in 1844 Jesus went from the holy place to the most holy place, and that signaled for God to begin the judgment in preparation for the end times. And they're proponents of kosher and vegan diets. Vegetarian diets, I apologize.
Mm-hmm.
So we talked about all the different offshoots and how some people sort of just faded away after Miller was proved wrong. And some people said that the date was just later. These are some of the third group, which said that it actually did happen. It was just invisible.
Oh.
So basically they said that, oh no, the change happened up in heaven and now God is passing judgment on all the souls. And when he's finished, then the apocalypse will happen.
Oh, I see. So it's too fast and then it'll be too holiest next. Okay.
Yes. Too fast, too holiest. Tokyo Drift. John's father thought the return of Christ was imminent, and so he did not need to formally educate his many children, which is helpful because with that many kids, I assume school cost was high.
Was this before public school was invented? I'm asking all these tough questions.
Public schooling was really kind of a thing as industrialization kicked off. To basically because there just needed to be a place for the kids to go while their parents were in the factory. And then there was also moral reforming movements. Basically, late 1800s was when we would see modern public schooling sort of begin. And then it wasn't a nationwide thing until like the Great Depression. It was part of the New Deal was like building a bunch of schools for people and making sure kids get educated.
It's actually insane. I had no idea that was that recent.
Oh, yeah. Very recent. In fact, Japan didn't start their public school system until the 1860s after the United States opened it up, and it was a westernizing maneuver for them. They wanted their kids to be educated so that way they could be productive members of society and then help them become more Western. And there were actual like riots and almost like people had to be violently put down because everyone was so annoyed at having to send their kids off to school. But that's Japan. So John was a big reader, though, and began to apprentice with a local Adventist publishing company, becoming very close to the couple that owned the company, the Whites. And at this time, Adventism was really defined by the periodicals that were put out. Same way the Jehovah's Witnesses, their actual doctrine comes from a periodical called The Watchtower. And so like the editorial staff of that periodical are like the really important members of the faith. And so the Adventists at this time, like the Whites were some of the most important Adventists in the country.
Strange. It's like a Man in the High Castle.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah. With some mysterious person up on a mountaintop just putting out all these strange ramblings that you then have to interpret as the gospel.
Yeah. Wait, what did you say they were called again?
The Whites.
No. The paper. Or the periodical.
Oh, the Watchtower. The Watchtower is for the Jehovah's Witnesses.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Gotcha.
But Mrs. White said that Mr. White was closer with John than with his own children. And I'm sure she said that in no way annoyed or pissed off. But thanks to his relationship with the Whites, John was able to pursue a career in health and attended University Medical School in Michigan and then New York University Medical College. So he's a Violet alumnus. Fighting Bobcats. Of course, this was way back when it was, because it was founded in what, 1839 in NYU?
I think so.
Something like that.
Sometime around there.
Yeah. Yeah. So this must have been very early on.
This is when we didn't have the Bobcat as a mascot.
Yeah, exactly. After graduating, John became the director of the Adventist Western Health Reform Institute, which he renamed the Battle Creek Medical Surgical Sanitarium.
Wow, medical and surgical. Buy one, get one free.
Yes. Literally, yes. That was kind of the idea. Surgeons and doctors were separate things, and a surgeon was much more of just a tradesperson at the time.
Oh.
So, yeah. Like a surgeon would be seen in about as much esteem as a blacksmith. Maybe a little bit more, but even then they were basically considered butchers.
I love modern medicine.
Oh God, that's why whenever I get the question of like, oh, if you could live in the past, where would you live? And like, well, obviously as a trans woman, that's not going to be great for me pretty much anywhere in history, except you go way back. But also modern medicine is awesome. So yeah. I always say as early as I can. Or as recent as I can.
Yeah, I was going to say as early as you can. Prehistory. I want to be there at the Big Bang.
The first fish to crawl out of the primordial ooze to become man, I want to shake its hand. I want to be there.
And then immediately die because the environment is deadly to me.
Oh yeah, I forgot the air is just pure hydrogen peroxide. I'm currently suffocating. The Battle Creek Medical Surgical Sanitarium was also owned by the Seventh-day Adventist. It was how they would sort of put out their vegetarian and kosher message to the world, because at this time, health and dieting and exercise were the new fads. And so people were really obsessed with this idea of like, oh, maybe if you don't cover all your food in bacon fat, you'll live slightly longer and you'll be happier. And in that classic Victorian fashion, they were kind of right, and then they took it too far. But around this time, John married Ella Ervilla Eaton, because they just love the letter E.
E.
They never shared a bedroom, and they had no biological children, but were foster parents to 42 children, and formally adopted 7 of them.
Do you ever want to wait till marriage so much that you just keep waiting?
Look, honey, I'd love to take you to Pound Town tonight, but the priest said, "Till death do us part." So I think we have to wait until then.
I remember in one of the favorite things of like in Catholic school was not the favorite things, but one of my favorite things was the fact that the priest is married to Jesus theoretically.
Oh yeah.
Which, first of all, gay. Second of all.
I love the idea of somebody walking into a cathedral and just being like, I'm picking up some real gay vibes.
And second of all, doesn't that just, because it's like, not, you can't have sex until marriage, but
yeah,
you're married to Jesus. So
interesting.
Anyway,
yeah,
this was not at all, in no way related to what we were talking about. I just really wanted to pull out that Catholic fact real quick because it's been on my mind.
Jules, how many times do I have to tell you, you can't bring in your tirade about how priests should be allowed to fuck into every podcast recording we do? I have to cut it out every time. It's so annoying.
It's good content. People need to know.
I'll die on that hill. So, John had a unique theology that rubbed some within the church the wrong way. He believed strongly in the harmony of science and the Bible, seeing God all around him in the natural world, which is fine and fairly modern take on faith, but this led many Adventists to believe that he had heretical beliefs of a nature god and pantheism. They literally accused him of worshiping Pan, the Greek god of nature. Literally saying he holds infidel sentiments, which does him great injustice and also endangers his influence as physician-in-chief of the sanitarium.
Ooh.
Don't you love mid-1800s religious drama?
It's pretty dramatic.
In 1902, the sanitarium burned to the ground.
Nice.
Kellogg wrote a book about his scientific and religious beliefs to help raise money to rebuild it. And the book was really popular. And it was just filled with all his ideas about dieting and sex and marriage and God and faith and everything.
What was it called?
I don't remember what the name of it was. But like, I'll admit, it was a long time since I looked at this material. So
I kind of want to try and find it on like Project Gutenberg and
I'm sure you could
get a good
it.
read.
Given some of the things he said later in life, I don't know if it's necessarily the best idea.
Oh,
but
I don't think it'll be good. It'll just be interesting.
More power to you. I'll put the name of the book in the show notes if anyone would like to go take a look. But the book did inflame rumors of his heretical beliefs, and in 1907, he was disfellowshipped from the Adventist Church, which is their way of saying excommunicated. Mm. Which is important because at this point, he was probably the most prominent Seventh-day Adventist in the country. But they just didn't think that his popularity was worth keeping around his, in their view, heretical beliefs. He was a vegetarian and a strong proponent of a high nut diet that he felt would become more prominent as food supplies dwindled in the coming years. That's a weird thing you see in the turn of the 18th century into the 19th century. 1800s and 1900s, is that they were just constantly afraid they were about to run out of food because they hadn't invented modern industrial fertilizer yet. Mm. So they really were about to run out of food.
That's crazy. And now we have a surplus again.
And now we do, yes. He developed a method for creating peanut butter, and Ella Kellogg worked with the sanitarium kitchen staff to develop vegetarian recipes.
Oh, nice.
He even developed 2 meat alternatives from nuts and grains called nuttose and protose.
And I wonder why they're not still around.
They might be in some way, but they don't. I doubt they were particularly appetizing.
Yeah.
And then he also coined the term granola. Here's where we got that little nugget from.
What was his inspiration?
I think it was that it was grain, and then probably some like Latin phrase or something. I'm not sure the exact etymology of the word, but I know he's the first one to have used it.
Interesting.
Yeah. He was a strong believer in the importance of intestinal flora, or gut bacteria, as we might call them today, and in that way he was way ahead of the boat. He recommended frequent enemas to clear out the intestines and keep the gut bacteria healthy, routinely suggesting people get enemas of multiple gallons of water.
Oh, God.
Yes, which he may have been right that gut bacteria was important, and it is, but that's not how you help it. That's how you kill it.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
Yeah. He is best known for his implementation of the yogurt enema. A pint of yogurt would be used to stimulate the growth of good intestinal flora. Half was eaten, and half was taken as an enema.
Why?
He got it from Hungary, where he first learned of yogurt, which was because I think that's just as close as he got to like Middle Eastern cooking, and it's really popular down there. Okay. Yeah, and so he saw that it was cultured, especially like he saw like pretty close to Greek yogurt. So he thought that was good bacteria because it's healthy for you and you can eat it and taste good. So it must be good to stick it up your butt. He's wrong.
Really? I had no idea.
Yes. He was also decidedly against sexual stimulation in all forms. Explains why he and his wife never consummated their marriage. He felt a bland diet would sap sexual desire. He invented cornflakes in the belief that they would be so bland in the morning that the eater would have no sexual desire for the rest of the day.
It's hysterical, honestly.
Yes. He also promoted circumcision to help curb masturbation in both adults and children. And he is actually part of the reason that circumcision is still a very prominent practice in modern America. It goes back to this. Prior to him, circumcision was just sort of something the Jews did. And then after that, it was much more common.
So strange.
Yes. He would famously say, "Neither the plague, nor war, nor smallpox, nor similar diseases have produced results so disastrous to humanity as the pernicious habit of onanism."
Onanism.
It's a great term. I love the term onanism. I love it because it makes it sound like masturbation is a religion.
Oh, yeah. Like, I honor Onan. I'm an onanist.
He argued for circumcision being done without anesthetic so it would associate pain with the genitals, and for the use of electrotherapy in extreme cases.
So, like, babies?
Yes, or usually young children.
Okay.
Yes. No, he's a bad person.
Yeah, that seems really bad.
Yes. The sanitarium also focused. I'm not going into detail on some of the awful things he did to kids in the name of like curing them of sexual habits. It's awful. If you want to have a bad time and lose faith in a little bit of humanity, you go look it up, people at home. I would strongly recommend you don't, though. The sanitarium also focused on regular exercise, with patients going on marches after meals to promote good digestion and practicing breathing exercises.
Weirdly, it's like every other thing he says is okay. But like everything else is just so batshit.
Yeah. Like it's that, like I said, it's that classic Victorian thing of like, we're going to start out with a good idea and then take it too far and get it half wrong. And it like that was just the entirety of the Western world from 1800 to 1900.
Oh man,
it's beautiful. Many famous people were guests of the sanitarium, including William Howard Taft, Roald Amundsen, the noted polar explorer, Amelia Earhart, George Bernard Shaw, the author, Henry Ford, the racist, Thomas Edison, the inventor, Sojourner Truth, the slave, and C.W. Post. C.W. Post, while he was there, had some cornflakes, thought they were very good, and went off and formed his own cereal company called Post, which still exists to this day. In fact, Kellogg himself wasn't the one that popularized cornflakes. That was his brother. And he never forgave him for it because he put sugar on the cornflakes to make them palatable. Mm-hmm. And Kellogg thought this was a betrayal of everything he stood for. And they never spoke again, I believe.
That's so funny. This man.
Yes. Kellogg was also a massive eugenicist, founding the Race Betterment Foundation, which sought to prevent miscegenation, which he believed dirtied the gene pool.
Wow, what a guy.
It's one thing I found as a common theme is basically anyone of note who lived in the 1800s was a massive eugenicist, which is really sad. The one person I found so far did a whole episode, part of a whole episode on him was Alexander Graham Bell. Was not a eugenicist, much to his credit.
Wow.
But John Harvey Kellogg died in 1943 of a heart attack. He was 76, I believe. No, he was 86.
I'm surprised he survived that long on constant 5-gallon enemas.
I'm sorry, he was 91.
Oh my God.
Jesus. Yeah, he would get, I think he got an enema twice a day for pretty much the last 3/4 of his life. The man was insane.
Yeah, sounds it.
But we will jump forward in time a little bit from the sanitarium of John Harvey Kellogg, 5 years and halfway around the world to March 22nd, 1948, when your close personal friend and mine, the Right Honorable the Lord Andrew Lloyd Webber, Knight Bachelor, was born in London to 2 musicians/composers.
Absolutely stunning.
Yes. I mean, I call him Webby, but
Mr. Webb.
His full name is Andrew Lloyd Webber. No. You see, his friends call him Andy, but his enemies call him Webby.
Amazing.
Webby immediately displayed an aptitude for music, composing his own pieces by the age of 9. And when he enrolled in music school at 15, he was working on a musical about Genghis Khan called Westonia, with an exclamation point.
Mm.
Yes, because what were you doing at age of 15? Were you composing entire musicals about Genghis Khan?
I'm pretty sure I was just being depressed.
Wow, I can't believe I'm surrounded by such mediocrity.
What can I say?
In 1965, the 17-year-old met a budding pop songwriter named Tim Rice. The two became friends and began to work together. In 1967, a school in London commissioned a song for their choir. Rice and Webby decided to write a pastiche of modern pop songs about characters from the Bible. This would go on to become the concept album, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Oh my God, what a good musical.
And then later the stage production. And then the film after that with Kirk Cameron, which is kind of weird.
And Donny Osmond.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I mix up Kirk Cameron and Donny Osmond?
I have no idea who Kirk Cameron is.
It's just Donny Osmond. Okay.
It's just Donny Osmond.
It's just Donny Osmond. Yep. Which is, it's fun. It's really cool. You've made me watch it before, and it's enjoyable. Joseph would have a short but successful run on the stage. The pair made a follow-up to Joseph called Jesus Christ Superstar as a concept album that found its way to the stage as well. This one would also later become a movie starring Willem Dafoe, I believe, as Jesus.
That's one that I haven't seen yet, but I've been really wanting to. It's one of my friend from high school's favorite musical.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah. Catholic school.
There you go. After this, the pair decided to make a concept album based on the life of Eva Peron, which was developed in 1976 and would have successful runs in both London and New York. It's the life of Eva Peron told as a rock opera from the point of view of Che Guevara.
So those of us who don't know, who's Eva Peron?
Eva Peron was the first lady of Argentina to Juan Perón, who was sort of the quasi-fascistic president of Argentina immediately after World War II up until like the mid to late 50s. He was known for his intense popularity and his brutal corruption. And then when he was overthrown by the military and forced to flee the country, he was also noted for his followers started a brutal civil war, guerrilla war against the government called the Dirty War, which is still a sore spot in Argentina to this day. But Eva Peron is very famous for being extremely beloved by the people, almost seen as a sainted figure for her work with the poor, despite her basically turning a blind eye to her husband's corruption and political repression.
Strange.
She also tragically died of cancer right at the end of his first time in office, and so she's seen as even more of a sainted figure because of that.
Yeah, that'll do it. Any good martyr-esque story.
Exactly, yeah. After the success of Evita, as it was called, Webby and Price parted ways, but would continue to work off and on throughout the years. They had a mildly acrimonious breakup, but from stories they tell, like they were like formally no longer working, but all the time Webby would come around to Price's house and be like, "Hey, I'm working on something. What do you think?" That kind of thing, and then they would write a few bars, and Price would frequently get writing credits on stuff that Weber would produce later in life.
Oh, hello, friends.
Yeah. Having lost his lyricist in Price, Weber turned to a collection of T.S. Eliot poems his mother had read to him as a child, Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats. The titled Cats, the play would have a 21-year run in London and an 18-year run on Broadway, which at the time was a record.
Mm-hmm. Longest running musical.
Yes.
Only supplanted by Phantom of the Opera?
Yes, he broke his own record.
Again, what an icon.
Absolute icon. After this, success after success, he was the undisputed king of Broadway. And in 1986, he premiered Phantom of the Opera. The show is still running and is continuously holding the title for longest running Broadway play, as you said. A title it took from himself. Don't you love it when people break their own records? It's so heartwarming.
Yeah, it's just great. It's just awesome.
I wonder if anything else is going to beat it.
I mean, Broadway's just coming back now. Does this count as a break in Broadway runs? Probably not.
I don't know. I think since everything was closed at the same time, I think they'll consider it a sort of just a dead space. Like they're just not going to count it.
Yeah, makes sense.
Do you think there's any play on Broadway right now that could give it a run for its money? That like might one day be able to say it went longer than Phantom?
I don't know if there's any. It seems like the Disney musicals are similar in popularity, but they're still just Disney musicals. Like I know Lion King had a really long run. I think it's still. Is it still running? I'm not sure.
I think it's still. Last time I was in New York, it was there, which was 2.5 years ago. No, a year and a half. So it might still be going, but I don't know if it's been continuous since it opened.
Yeah, well, maybe on this run. I think that one is the closest possibility. It's like it has to be such a generic family type musical to be out there.
Maybe Les Mis?
See, that's my problem with it, is that it doesn't have the same family appeal. And I think like having something you can go to multiple times with kids is what really is going to sell you on years and years. Like Cats. Weirdly, Phantom of the Opera, I know as a young child, that was the first musical I went to see. And it was my favorite musical for a really long time. And now that I'm older, I realize that is very problematic because it is a really questionable plot to a show.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's real rapey, but whatever. What can you do? Anyway.
No, thank you. Thank you for that brief insight into Julianne. I think the first musical I was ever taken to was either Wicked or it was a off-Broadway production of Twelfth Night as a musical.
That's fun.
Both were fun. And then the next one I went to was Chicago. So I was thrown in the deep end pretty quick.
Yep.
But I saw that one in London, so it doesn't count.
All good ones, though, gotta say.
Yes. I've actually seen Wicked 3 times.
I've also seen Wicked 3 times.
Weird.
Good musical.
It is good. I remember it was only the most recent one where I saw it and I'm like, oh, this is about fascism. I thought it was about the Wicked Witch of the West.
No, it's definitely about fascism. No, but like you're a kid, you're like, oh, it's the witch. It's cool.
Yeah.
And then, oh no, the wizard's bad. Oh.
Then there's that weird date rape scene in the middle of it.
Oh yeah, there's so many things going on in that musical. I saw the musical, and then my sister read the book Wicked, and I was not allowed to read that book.
Yeah, I've heard it's pretty saucy.
Yeah. So could have been worse.
Could have been worse. You know what? I agree.
Great songs though, honestly. Excellent.
Defying Gravity, it's amazing. I feel like when I saw it in London, there was some famous woman who was at the lead. I don't want to say it was Idina Menzel, but it might have been. Was she ever in London, or was she only on Broadway?
I have no idea.
You're supposed to be the Broadway expert. That's why I brought you on.
I know. Go watch Musical Splaining or something. I don't know. They go into all these details.
God, I actually really like that podcast. It's so great.
It's a great podcast.
Should we just shill for another podcast during our podcast?
my only hot take is that they are. I like couldn't finish the Phantom episode, so maybe if they were more negative about it towards the end, but it was a little too positive about it. That musical.
Having been a bit of a Lindsay Ellis stan for a while now, she's done a few very long videos about Phantom. She was very obsessed with Phantom for a while. So if you go on her YouTube channel, you can definitely find her talking about the problems with Phantom.
Okay, it's good to hear.
She definitely considers it a problematic fave. I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I believe that is correct in what I've seen of her opinions of the book.
All right.
So Weber was dubbed the most commercially accessible. Remember we were talking about Andrew Lloyd Webber?
Oh, that man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was dubbed the most commercially successful composer in history by the New York Times in 2001, which just goes to show that there was literally nothing else to talk about before 9/11.
Oh man.
That was a really dark joke.
That was really dark.
To the city of New York.
Oh man.
He received honors from the Kennedy Center alongside Dolly Parton and Steven Spielberg in 2006.
Oh, Dolly.
So there are these delightful group pictures of him, Steven Spielberg, and Dolly Parton with George W. Bush.
Oh wow.
And because there's not a tall person amongst the group.
What a trio.
So it's beautiful. It's all of them standing in front of a table, and the table comes up to like shoulder height. It's amazing.
Yeah.
He was made a baron by the Queen and is a member of the House of Lords as a life peer, basically meaning that he will have a right to be a member of the House of Lords for the rest of his life, but his children will not inherit it.
I see.
He did retire from the House in 2017, which just goes to show that British democracy is a sham and a joke, and they know it, and they're just refusing to let the rest of us play along. He has composed for 21 plays that went to the stage and for many more that never got off the ground.
Sad.
Absolutely prolific. It will be a dark day on Broadway when he finally passes. But before that, we have to talk about a little movie from the 90s called The Road to Wellville. I assume you've never seen this film?
I have not seen this film.
I have. It's bad. Don't watch it.
Is it a musical?
It is not a musical.
Can't watch it.
Yes. Alan Parker was a successful director known for his work in musicals, though. He directed Fame in 1980 and was the director of Pink Floyd's The Wall in 1982. Two pretty prominent musicals back at the time.
Yeah.
He was the first director approached to direct the film version of Evita, the one that eventually went on to star Madonna. That was very successful and won a few Golden Globes and Oscars and everything, and sort of proved, you see, movie musicals kind of died off after Hello, Dolly was like this huge thing that the studios put a lot of money into, and then it just completely bombed. Mm-hmm. And so when the through the 70s and 80s, as cinema was undergoing, it's not a phase mom phase when it was trying to be all dark and edgy and real. Mm-hmm. Musicals were just they were the domain of children's films and Disney. Mm-hmm. Like no one else was really doing musicals. And then Evita was one of the first like adult musicals to really get commercial and critical success, and sort of prove that no, you can do a musical still. You just have to be smart about it. Mm-hmm. But regardless, in 1994, Parker directed an adaptation of a book about Battle Creek Sanitarium, entitled The Road to Wellville.
Ah, our man Kellogg coming back.
Exactly. You see, he had just come off of directing a musical, and so he wanted to then not do another musical, and apparently was rather taken with the story of John Harvey Kellogg. And so the book focused on the odd practices of the sanitarium and on Edwardian-era sexual practices. Anthony Hopkins, hot on the heels of his turn as Hannibal Lecter and now one of the most famous actors in all of Hollywood, was cast as Dr. Kellogg. To fill out the rest of the cast, you have Matthew Broderick, John Cusack, Bridget Fonda, Dana Carvey, and Michael Lerner.
Star-studded cast.
Honestly, for 1994, yeah. I mean, you've got Matthew Broderick, Dana Carvey, John Cusack. All these are big names. Mm-hmm. The movie follows Mr. and Mrs. Lightbody, Broderick and Fonda, as they check into the sanitarium. Mrs. Lightbody falls in with German nudists and free love types, while Mr. Lightbody shocks himself repeatedly while cheating on his wife at literally every opportunity.
Oh my god.
There is not a single woman in that film that Matthew Broderick does not make eye contact with that he does not later end up having sex with.
Oh, man. So everything Kellogg would have wanted.
Everything Kellogg would have wanted. The movie is endlessly horny and has no idea what it's doing. One moment, Fonda will be talking about having to drug her drunken husband so much that she may have permanently damaged his digestive system and rendering him unable to be present for the loss of their newborn child. And then the next, Anthony Hopkins is in a goofy mustache talking about people's poop for 5 minutes. The movie has such tonal whiplash, I had to put on a neck brace while I was watching it. It had a budget of $25 million and made $6.6 million at the box office.
Oof. Oof, oof, oof.
Yeah. It appeared on both Rolling Stone's and the New York Times worst lists for 1994.
Oh, that's funny.
And while I admit the movie is terrible, it does have fun moments. And no one puts in a bad performance, but the movie just is really meandering and weird for no reason, and then it just kind of ends.
I'm just like, yep, that was weird, wasn't it?
Yeah. Its greatest crime is basically just that it doesn't say anything and then it just says goodbye. But Parker was now looking for a big project to turn things around after the failure of The Road to Wellville and agrees to sign on to direct the adaptation of Evita for the screen that had been floundering in production hell for years. They'd been trying to get it off the ground since the early 80s, basically since the stage musical was still on Broadway. And it was going through different production companies and different directors. Oliver Stone was attached at one point. Liza Minnelli was going to play Evita at one point. But finally, after the failure of The Road to Wellville, Parker says he wants to go back to musicals just to sort of familiar ground, and he needs something big budget and that's going to be successful and sort of get the stink of Road to Wellville off of him. Mm-hmm. And Madonna would play the lead role as Eva Peron. She reportedly showed up to auditions with the director in full costume and would really kind of viewed it as a spiritual experience for herself, desperately trying to get into character and understand the character of Eva Peron.
Wow. Real method.
Yeah. It was a massive critical and commercial success, winning 3 Golden Globes and an Academy Award for Best Original Song. Now that Hollywood knows that musicals can work, if you're smart about it, they do a few musicals here and there. Some are big successes, some aren't. But then in 2012, a terrible thing happens. Do you know what that is?
The Crash.
No, that was 2008.
Oh. What happened in 2012? Oh, the end of the world. That was what 2012 was.
Yes. The world ended.
The world ended.
And I was more thinking Obama got a second term, but...
no. The rapture happened. Did you not remember May 6th or May 21st? One of those days it happened.
December 21st.
They had a couple of dates. One was definitely in May. Maybe March? I know a lot.
You sound like George Miller right now. She's like, I don't know, maybe it was April 30th. It's definitely going to be April. It's already happened. No, I miss August 3rd. August 3rd is going to be when the world ends.
This is it. This is the day. Yep.
Even worse than all of that, even worse than the In the World. In 2012, Tom Hooper directed an adaptation of the Broadway play Les Miserables, which was an adaptation of the novel of the same name by Victor Hugo. Hooters.
Hooters.
It was partially funded by Hooters, which is why there's that one weird scene where they go to a Hooters in revolutionary Paris. Really feels out of turn, but you know what? You have to do what you have to do for your sponsors.
This is what I kind of like as a modern. Not that Moulin Rouge is a particularly old film or musical, but I really like the idea of, because it's the same plot. Like, it's like this dude goes to a brothel and goes, I'm going to now create musicals, creates musicals. So instead, we have, let's get Andrew Lloyd Webber. We'll send him to a Hooters. He's going to own the place, going to tear it down, he's going to restructure it, and we're going to put on great musicals.
Get the Right Honorable the Lord Andrew Lloyd Webber to buy a Hooters for us. And we'll film a musical in it. So Hooper's adaptation was notable for its focus on capturing the actor singing live on set instead of in the booth.
Which is terrible.
Yes, for anyone at home who doesn't know, traditionally a musical is you get the cast together, they record all the singing in the booth in a controlled environment, in tempo with the band or the orchestra that's playing it, so they know the timing. And they're all together, and they do that. And then a few months later, they get back together again, and they actually shoot the movie while lip syncing along with the music being played in their ear. This time around, Hooper decided no, and was just going to have the actor sing it live on set, capturing the audio there. And then the advantage of this is that if you do it this way, the actor can make choices in the song that they wouldn't be able to do in a more traditional way. Like, they can take breaths, they can pause, they can hold something for longer. If they really want to make a point in their performance, it allows them to really control the performance of the song. The bad part of this is that it fucks everything else up, and it makes it so that the orchestra can't play along. Because the actor is now just basically singing the song to themselves, maybe on tempo, and taking random pauses. And so you just have this miserable, if you ever watch behind the scenes footage of this film, this miserable group of performers just trying to figure out what tempo Hugh Jackman is going at, or Anne Hathaway is going at, when they're trying to play along the songs.
Yeah, because singers are never known to be able to keep time, unless you're like exclusively an a cappella singer. Like, you're so used to following like a backing track of some kind.
Exactly.
Oh, it's terrible. Also, I feel like it's important to emphasize the orchestra typically records first, as you said.
Yes.
And so, like, you get, in that way, when the singers are singing, they actually are getting this emotion of what has been already written into the orchestration. But in this case, like, they're playing to a click track or to a piano, which is just not at all the same kind of oomph. And so, like, they do such strange things in terms of like mood of the songs when they shouldn't be doing that.
Yeah, it's if go watch the movie if people at home, and just listen to the music in the background of some of the more emotional songs, and you can really feel it begin to strain whenever the actor tries to do something actorly. It's really a terrible decision.
Mm-hmm.
But no one knows what they're doing, and no one can tell good art from bad art. And so people loved it because they saw it as authentic and realistic, and it's a musical, so why does it have to be fucking realistic? It's a musical, god damn it, I hate this. But it went on to be wildly popular despite its many flaws, and won a ton of awards, including a few Oscars. It also made $441 million on a $61 million budget.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it's a lot of money. If you make that kind of money, you set a precedent, which is sad. Another side note is Hugh Jackman deprived himself of water for 48 hours before some shooting days in order to get into character as a singer.
Which is the worst decision you could ever make.
Yeah, you can just straight up destroy your vocal cords doing that. And he nearly did. That's not good.
Got raspy. That's all he got.
You shouldn't ask that of your actors. That's dangerous. Like, honestly, that should be a crime.
But I've heard that he was like really excited by it. He was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. I just want to get into character. I just want to be so into it. Like, no.
I don't know how much of it was him alone making the decision, but even if it was entirely his decision, it should have been Tom Hooper's responsibility to step in and be like, are you fucking insane? Mm-hmm. I'm not going to just stand by while Wolverine destroys his vocal cords. Yeah. That's not happening. In 2017, The Greatest Showman, also starring Hugh Jackman, also made all the money in the world for being a big movie musical. This, along with La La Land, showed that musicals could be popular. And La La Land had a scene where Emma Stone sang live on set. Now, granted, when she did that, she was in a booth in the movie singing. So it makes more sense and it's not as bad. And if I remember the scene correctly, there isn't much of a orchestra behind her for it. It's been a while since I saw La La Land, though. I could be wrong.
I saw it and I hated it, so I can't help you.
I have my thoughts on La La Land. If we ever do it for overall, then we will we'll get to talk about it further. But
I want to talk about it further, but the only problem is I don't want to watch La La Land.
Yeah, right. We'll see. But it showed that this sort of idea of recording live on set was beginning to pick up steam. In 2018, Universal tapped Tom Hooper to direct an adaptation of Cats for the screen, which makes sense on paper. It's the one of the most popular Broadway musicals of all time with broad audience appeal. It's about the length of a film already. Why would you wouldn't need to make that many changes? And you get the guy who directed the last really big budget musical that did gangbusters. It should have been a walk in the park. And from accounts I've read, Tom Hooper was very excited to be able to direct this and kind of saw it as a passion project. He initially offered the lead roles to Anne Hathaway and Hugh Jackman, but they turned them down because they didn't want to be in Cats, and they were smart enough to recognize the danger it could do to their own careers.
Did they actually, or what was their actual reason?
I don't know what their actual reason was. It might have been scheduling conflicts and stuff, or just that like the grueling elements of filming Les Mis had kind of turned them off from working with Hooper again. Or maybe even like something like they were trying to get away from it, or they just didn't want to do it. Like there's plenty of reasons they could have, but I like to imagine they were smart enough to realize it was going to be a train wreck. The film wrapped shooting in April of 2019, using the same stupid recording the songs live on set things from Les Mis, which makes even less sense because you're talking about cats. Mm-hmm. Like they're just cats. It's not like there's no reality. The suspension of disbelief has to be suspended before people even hear the title. Yeah, like you don't have to worry about realism. But
these are people in unitards, please.
Oh God, I wish they just stuck with that. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Work on the visual effects would continue up until hours before its December 16th premiere, which, if you've just done the math, is 8 months. And then for some time after. This is the only film I've ever heard of where they put out a revised edition while it was still in theaters. Like they updated it. They put out like a patch, a digital patch to the film to cover up some of the more egregious CGI failures.
What were some of the failures?
There were a lot of instances of people's bodies coming through their costumes. The most egregious one would be there's a few times where Judi Dench, who played Old Deuteronomy, like it'll cut to her and she just has her full-on regular human hand with like her wedding ring on it and stuff.
Oh my God.
Instead of what was supposed to be her sort of cat hand. I think they also beefed up. They got time to render some of the fur effects and everything a little bit better. Mm. As far as I remember, there weren't any changes to the overall plot or like any cuts or anything. It was mostly just to get the CG looking better.
Yeah. Or if anyone has, I want to find a pre-cut. That'd be really interesting to watch.
I'm sure it exists. Yeah. I want to see the butthole cut.
I do not want to see the butthole cut.
Do you know what the butthole cut is?
Yes, but for our audience, please explain the butthole cut.
So after the movie came out and it was terrible, there were rumors that in the last few weeks before release, executives at Warner Brothers Universal had decreed that they had to go through and remove digitally the buttholes of each of the characters, because that had originally been part of it. When they sort of made everyone cat-like, they gave them like anatomically correct cat buttholes.
I don't know why they would ever do that in the first place. Like,
I think it's a joke, but I want it to be true.
I don't believe. I feel like I hate it.
Yes, it's bad. The whole thing is terrible. Do you want to quickly tell when we first saw the circumstances under which we first saw Cats 2019?
The circumstances under which we first saw Cats 2019 was a really amazing pirated version, which had about 5 pixels, and routinely had an image of a pinata descend from the top of it, which honestly was the best part of the film. It was supposed to be a drinking game, but I think everyone was so distressed by the horror of the film that no one could even drink. Like, it
was beautiful. Every 10 minutes, it would just cut to a random commercial for some like Turkish gambling website.
Yeah.
I remember when the pinata dropped down into the screen. It was like during a really emotional moment, and this pinata just falls down. I remember everyone in the room just started laughing. It was beautiful.
It's like in the middle of memory, like just this emotional, heart-wrenching, the spirit of the film, and then pinata and gambling noises. It like also didn't it make like a cash register sound too? It was terrible. It was so bad.
Yes,
it was so bad.
Oh God, it was. And then occasionally text would just scroll along the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
For that same gambling. Oh my God.
It was amazing.
Oh.
Would recommend.
There's a few moments in your life, that you just remember perfectly, that you're never going to be able to forget. And I am lucky as hell that is one of them for me.
Yeah.
I'm always going to be able to remember sitting in that. And the best part was, I can't remember who it was, but one of us was just constantly being like, don't you think we should find a better quality version of this? And everyone was like, this is the best way to watch this. I don't know what you're saying. Why would you want a better version?
This is already the pinnacle.
See this more clearly.
So good. And I never have wanted to watch it again.
Yeah, no, I went back and tried to watch it. There's nothing of value. There is the song for Skimbleshanks the Railway Cat, who is the best cat. It's the only good one because the guy who's singing it is a tap dancer and is tapping along, so he has to have rhythm. And so he just makes his own click track, and he makes the song good. And It's actually really, really well done. It's still creepy that they're human cat people, but other than that, it's fine.
The only issue with the Skimbleshanks section is the fact that they, in the CGI, have this terrible ability to maintain the size that they think these cats should be. So they go from being like 1 foot tall to like 5 inches tall to like 3 feet tall. It like just even during the course of a single song, they will cut to another place and they will be a different size, and it is so distressing.
But it is the one genuinely good part of it, just because of how strong Skimbleshanks is as a song. Mm-hmm. Critics though disagreed. They absolutely savaged the film. It made $75 million on a $100 million budget, which is way more than it deserved. Peter Bradshaw of The Guardian called it a perfectly dreadful hairball of woe.
Whoa.
Matt Goldberg from Collider said, watching Cats is like a descent into madness. Alex Kranz of IO9 said, I have seen sights no human should see. Jill Gutowitz of L.com said, Cats is a nightmare that won't end. Kevin Fallon of the Daily Beast said, the Cats movie is a boring disaster filled with joyless pussies.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, this is like chum in the water to a school of sharks. Oh, yeah. It's a bad film that is like joyously bad, and it's called Cats, so you can just fill it with puns.
Oh yeah, like
you could just shove so many puns in there. My favorite one that I ever saw was that Cats is the worst thing to happen to cats since dogs.
Oh yeah. Classic.
A lot of dog play. Like John Anderson of the Wall Street Journal said his review was going to the dogs.
Oh.
Cats going to the dogs. Brian Lowry of CNN said Cats leaves behind a memory that's best forgotten.
That's
Kevin
especially
Mayer
good
of the
because
time.
the memory, that song, that
Yeah,
famous
there
song,
you go.
that song in the musical, the big song, the memory song. Wow.
Yes. Would you like to sing us a few bars?
Absolutely not.
Kevin Mayer of the Times said, "Cats is a musical mess. Cats the musical mess is one for the litter tray."
Oh no.
Ty Burr of the Boston Globe said, "Oh God, my eyes."
I love it. I absolutely love it.
And David Sexton of the Evening Standard said, "Nearly as obscene as the human centipede." Honestly, one of my favorite things to do is go through and look at the reviews of cats.
Yeah.
And then Scott Tobias of NPR simply said, "Spay it."
Spay it. Oh, that's funny.
The best one, though, by far, I sadly don't know who wrote it, but it's genius, was, I can honestly say, after watching Cats, that I can no longer consider myself a cat person. I also don't know if I can consider myself a movie person anymore either.
Just the sheer sadness in that statement. I think the way you said that was really perfect. Just like, I can't imagine myself a movie person anymore either.
It just broke me.
It's so funny.
Oh, sorry. I know this isn't nearly as funny as I find it, but it is absolutely joyous to me. Oh, it's just I don't respect Tom Hooper, and to see him get so ravaged is joyous. There is a bit of Schadenfreude to it, and also just it's fun to see people make cat puns in a major publications like this. But yeah, that's what brought us Cats. There's no way we could have gotten Cats if I guess we could even tie this into the last episode and say if George Miller had never had a post-traumatic stress disorder after returning from the War of 1812, we never would have gotten Cats 2019.
Wow. That's so beautiful.
Wonderful.
So bad. I could have done with just Cats, the stage musical, but no.
Yeah. Like, there's a really good recording of the stage musical from the 90s. You didn't need to keep going.
Definitely amazing.
Or, honestly, a few times they tried to get it off the ground as an animated film, which would have been pretty good, I think. Yeah. Like, the same company that did Secret of Nim and American Tail, which was Don Bluth. Don Bluth tried to do an adaptation of Cats a few times.
I still stand by the fact that I think that Cats the musical would have been far superior if it had realistic cat CGI instead of humans. Like, just completely nix the humans. I just want to see some CGI cats dancing around. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, no, that would be much better. It's really horrifying what they went. I mean, I don't like using the term uncanny valley. I feel it's a little overused. It was definitely uncanny valley of them, though, to do what they did. Yeah.
Just like, it's too close to human, too far from cat, too far from human.
Yeah.
Too close to cat.
And then you have the scenes where, like, I forget her name, but the woman who played the tabby cat, what's her name?
Rebel Wilson?
Yeah, Rebel Wilson. The Rebel Wilson at one point eats a cockroach, but the cockroach is just like a tap dancing rocket. And so it's just really horrifying to watch Rebel Wilson as a cat person eat another human being.
Yeah, there's just so many things that feel so wrong about it. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
What cat does she play?
Mungo Jerry?
No.
That's one of the twins. Oh, that was the other thing about it. Didn't they like gave her a part, and it's like supposed to be a trio song, and they made it a solo song, but then there was something about how the melody doesn't sound like the melody, and so it just sounds like she's singing this like really strange version of this. Oh, it's bad.
Yeah. That's the thing, is that like I feel so bad for everyone who is in the movie, because like the people who were accomplished singers and performers like Scrimbleshanks and oh god, who's the guy who played Rum Tum Tugger?
Jason Derulo?
Yes, Jason Derulo. Like he's a professional. He's a singer. He's on stage. He knows how to carry a song, and his was pretty decent as well. If it was too horny, for
that means whoa. Let's start off. The stage musical is too horny.
I understand that it's weird to say any part of Cats is too horny, given that the play itself is too horny. But I meant it is really disturbing to see these half-human, half-cat anthropomorphized things just fawning over Jason Derulo like that, it really makes me uncomfortable. In the same way that the McCavity song with Taylor Swift is also deeply uncomfortable.
Yes. Yes, it is. But the Jason Derulo is also doubled by the fact that he wears a fur coat, and then he is also fur, and it's this it's like, what kind of eldritch monstrosity did he just remove from himself?
McCavity does the same thing. McCavity has a fur coat on for the whole thing, and then towards the end of the movie, he just shows up and takes it off, but his fur underneath is Idris Elba, the guy who played him, skin color, and so it just looks like...
It's horrifying. It's absolutely horrifying. I forgot that Idris Elba was in this. I completely forgot. I blacked out.
I think hopefully he did as well. It's just so horrifying. I don't know why I find it so funny.
Because it's terrible.
I'm genuinely about to cry.
Well, this is going to be such an emotional episode for you. Oh my god.
I just care about cats so much.
God.
But you have the professional performers there who are able to get by on their own, but then you have people like James Corden and Rebel Wilson who are not performers like that. They don't sing like on stage, and so they're just left out to dry.
No, you don't understand. They both are also stage performers.
Really? Who?
Yeah,
I mean, like, what have they done?
I guess Rebel Wilson was in Pitch Perfect. I don't know what.
Yeah, but I'm sure she was getting help in the way that anyone should. Like, I would consider Jason Derulo and Taylor Swift different from that in the sense that they are like musicians first, whereas Rebel Wilson's an actress first, and then.
But I'm pretty sure James Corden was trained in musical theater and then became a talk show host, and then he starred in Into the Woods. Like, he has a background in it. That's why he does things like carpool karaoke and is good at it. And like,
that's fair. I hadn't considered that. Which just goes to show that these people can do well if you help them. Tom Hooper, you son of a bitch. Don't just leave them out there to dry. No,
but who we really have to thank is Kellogg. And we can move on.
Yes. Sorry, I need more excuses to yell at Tom Hooper. But yes, thank you very much for bringing it back to the old racist. John Harvey Kellogg.
The old
racist. Alrighty. So, do you want
to
sign us off?
Read a book.
That's it. Read a book. Thank you very much, everyone.